You ever get that feeling, when you have some piece of information and you're just dying to share it? We all want to be seen as smart and knowledgeable, but there's a really fine line between sharing what you know and, well, kind of pushing people away. So today, let's get into the subtle art of silent intellectual influence.
Come on, we've all been there, right? Whether you're in a meeting at work, at a dinner party, or just chatting with friends, that moment pops up. You've got a fact, or maybe a correction, and you just know it'll make you look intelligent. But what usually happens right after that?
And this is the frustrating part. On one hand, your intention is good. You want to contribute, you want to seem helpful, maybe even smart. But on the other hand, the result is often the total opposite. You just come across as a know-it-all. That massive gap you see there, that's where all that potential influence just vanishes.
So what's really causing this disconnect? Well, it almost always comes down to one very common and oh-so-tempting pitfall. It's a habit so common it has its own name. We're talking about the well-actually trap.
These two little words. You've heard them, and let's be honest, you've probably said them too. I know I have. They're like the twin assassins of a good conversation. The second someone says them, you can just feel the friendly, easy vibe in the room deflate.
And this, right here, gets to the heart of it. When we use this phrase, our main goal usually isn't to help or to share knowledge. It's to prove someone else wrong, which, by default, proves that we are right. It's a little, subtle power play.
But that little power play? Oh, it costs way more than you think. It has this surprisingly high price. Because correcting people like this doesn't just fail to win you any friends, it actively works against the very thing you were trying to achieve in the first place.
Okay, so let's break it down. The crucial thing to get here is that when you make a big public correction, you're not just correcting a fact. You're basically embarrassing the other person, and that makes them feel small, it makes you look arrogant, and it absolutely destroys any of that intellectual credibility you were hoping to build. So after all that, what have you actually gained? How much influence, respect, and likability did you just earn by making someone else feel dumb? Right there. A big, fat zero. Nothing. Nada. It's a completely self-defeating strategy.
Okay, so that sounds kind of bleak, right? But don't worry, it's not a hopeless situation at all. There's a much more effective and honestly a more powerful way to share what you know. It's all about unlocking what our source material calls the silent advantage.
And the solution is something called the humble approach. It's a huge shift in your mindset. You're moving from proving how much you know to simply teaching what you know. The goal is to lift the entire conversation up, not just to score a point at somebody else's expense.
Let's just put these side by side. The difference is pretty stark when you see it like this. The old way, the actually way, is all about proving others wrong. And the outcome is you're unlikable. But with this new way, the humble approach, your action is to teach, and the outcome? People see you as respectable. You're using the exact same knowledge, but with a totally different delivery, you get a totally different result.
And when you adopt this humble approach, you gain this silent advantage. It's amazing. People start actually listening to you. Not because you're the loudest person in the room or the one who's always right, but because they trust you. They start to see you as a source of knowledge, not a source of judgment. Now that is real social power.
All right, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it, in the heat of the moment? Let's get practical. Let's look at your new approach.
It's really just a simple two-step process. First, when you feel that, actually, bubbling up inside you, just pause. Seriously, take a breath. And second, instead of correcting them, reframe what you're going to say as just sharing information. So instead of pointing out a mistake, you could say something like, "Oh, that's so interesting. And building on that, I also read somewhere that," or even, "That's a great way to put it." Another way to look at it is, that little shift makes all the difference in the world.
And that really brings us right back to the beginning, doesn't it? Real social power, that true intellectual influence we're all after, it's quiet. It doesn't need to shout from the rooftops and point out everyone else's mistakes. It earns respect by sharing humbly and confidently. It's silent, actually.
So I'm going to leave you with this one question to chew on. The next time you're in a conversation and you have that piece of knowledge you want to share, what's your role going to be? Are you going to be the person who corrects and divides, or are you going to be the one who teaches and connects? The choice is all yours.